Now, we discussed India's relationship with its two most important neighbors, Pakistan and China. Now, let's learn about India's relationship with some powerful countries of the world. We will begin with India's relationship with Russia. India has a very cordial or a friendly relationship with Russia. It also had a similar relationship with its predecessor. So before Russia, it was called United Socialist Soviet Russia, USSR. It had the countries of Ukraine and some others too. So India had good relationship with USSR as well. It has a good relationship with Russia as well. Even though India followed non-alignment policy. What is a non-alignment policy? We have studied in the previous chapter. So after the Second World War, there was United States of America and the countries that supported United States of America, and there was the USSR and the countries that supported USSR. India chose non-alignment. It didn't align with USA, it didn't align with USSR also. So India followed the non-alignment policy, but it had a good relationship with Russia in the field of economics, politics and other areas. And to support India in the year 1962, USSR had opposed China's invasion to India. During the Goa liberation in 1961, USSR had supported India at the UNO. USSR had supported the Tashkent Agreement between India and Pakistan in the year 1966 as well. So, an examination point of view, it's very important for you all to know in what aspects did USSR or Russia cooperate with India. In 1971, India and USSR signed the agreement of 20 years for peace and cooperation. USSR had supported the establishment of Bhilai and Bukhara steel plants. One mark question, name the steel plants that were supported by USSR. Bhilai and Bukhara. India has taken major support from Russia to improve industries and technology, and Russia has been supporting India's position in the Permanent Council of the United Nations organization. So, what is the United Nations Security Council? What is permanent seat? So, in the United Nations organization, there are various wings or departments like UNICEF, UNESCO, and the most important one is the Security Council. There are only 5 permanent members, but USSR has been or Russia has been supporting India to become the 6th permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. So once a country becomes a member of the United Nations Security Council, they get the veto power. What is veto power? You can read it online. Next, let's look at India's relationship with another powerful country, India and the United States of America. These both are one of the biggest democracies in the world. In the present international scenario, both India and USA have a major role to play. The relationship between both countries have found a major shift since 1947. So during the Cold War, when the world was bipolar, you had to choose between USA or USSR. India had maintained equal distance both from Russia also and from USA also because of non-alignment policy. USA has supported a lot to India's 5-year plans. USA has extended its support during the Indian-Chinese War in the year 1965. But later, political leaders of USA started supporting Pakistan during the war between India and Pakistan. So many a times, the foreign policy of USA has been in the favor or in the support of Pakistan. But both USA and India have shared interest. They both are equally interested in controlling terrorism. India enjoys a better relationship with USA in some fields like foreign trade, science and technology, space science, education and other areas of mutual interest. Both the countries share mutual responsibility to strengthen the UNO and to maintain global peace. India keeps observing the policy shift in two parties of USA. So there are two main parties in USA, the Democrats and Republicans. And they both have different way of dealing with India. India adjusts to policies of both the parties of the USA. India has cordial relationship with all of the other neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives, Afghanistan, Indonesia and other countries. So this brings us to the end of the chapter, India's relationship with other countries. Now let's do the backside questions on page 78. The relationship with Dash was strengthened with Panchashila principles with China. International peace and cooperation is discussed in Dash article of the Constitution, Article 51. In 1962, who invaded our country? China invaded our country. Next, detailed questions. Why do countries need to have good relationship with other countries? A country can never progress without interacting with another country in this globalized and modernized environment. It's inevitable for a country to have relationship with another country. It's not a necessity, it's a need. In the fourth part of our Constitution, under Article 51, international peace and coexistence has been explained. It's discussed under the directive principles of state policy 2. Question 2, what are the reasons for tensions between India and Pakistan? Issues like terrorism, Jammu and Kashmir issue, water sharing disputes are the reasons for disputes between India and Pakistan. They both have fought 3 wars. Question 3, the relationship between India and China is spoiled. What are the reasons for this? There was a war that broke out between India and China in 1962 due to the escalation of Tibetan crisis. After the war, border disputes arose and these disputes still remain unresolved. The insistence of China that Arunachal Pradesh belongs to it is one of the main bone of contentions between the two countries. Question 4. India and USA are two democratic countries. Explain the mutual cooperation that exists between both the countries. So, they are not just democratic, they are also big countries. In the present international scenario, both have a major role to play. During the bipolar world of Cold War era, India had maintained equal distance because of its non-alignment policy. USA has supported India's 5-year plans. It also extended support during Indo-China war. But later, India was not supported by USA as it adopted a pro-Pakistan policy. But they both share mutual interest in controlling terrorism. India has better relationship with USA in the fields of foreign trade, science, technology, space science, education and other areas. Question 5. Explain the relationship between India and Russia. There is a good relationship between India and Russia. Though India followed the non-alignment policy, Indo-Russia cooperation is still continuing in political, economic and other fields. During the liberation of Goa in 1961, Russia supported India. Russia assisted India to build steel plants in Bhilai and Bokaro. We have received a lot of aid from Russia for the growth of our industry and commerce. Russia shows due respect to India's size and potentially compared to Pakistan. It is always supporting Indian claim for a permanent seat in the Security Council of the UNO. So students, this brings us to the end of the chapter, India's relationship with other countries. Very simple, very easy. You just have to know what relationship did India have with 4 countries, China, Pakistan, USA and Russia. If you all are still interested in knowing what was the Tibetan crisis all about, what is this veto power, you can watch the next video only for those students who are interested further. So how many of you actually Googled and found out what is the veto power? It is very simple. So let's say there is a resolution in the United Nations organization and all countries get 1 vote. But the 5 members who are there in the United Nations Security Council, they have a veto power. If they say no, even if everyone else has said no, even if one country in the United Nations Security Council says no, and even if everyone else has said yes, the bill or the law will not be passed. Okay, so they get this very special veto power. So if India also becomes a part of the United Nations Security Council and a permanent member along with the existing 5 countries, it gets this very special veto power. So this brings us to the end of the chapter, India's relationship with other countries. Just 4 countries, students, the neighbors, China and Pakistan, and superpowers, USA and Russia. Very easy chapter if you think of it as a story and understand how is the relationship. I hope you all will practice a lot of keywords. I hope you all will connect the previous chapters as you write answers in this chapter, like we discussed non-alignment, Panchashila, so many words from the previous chapters we took and we used here as well. So this brings us to the end of the entire political science in part 1 of your textbook. I hope you work hard. Bye. See you until then.